By this time, as the night waned on, we were all so tired. As Jesus continued to pray, the moon had drifted to a newer, lower spot in the sky. Not hearing any noise from my other brothers nearby, I stood up and peered through the trees. I spotted a few of our friends stretched out on the ground, and could even now hear some of their familiar snoring and heavy breathing. Peter couldn't help himself from yawning now. Neither could John, or me, for that matter. I sat back down against an olive tree, and I leaned my head against the rough trunk. Pale moths fluttered softly in the moonlight. Close by in the branches above, a dove cooed. My eyes were feeling heavy, and I pinched my face to try to stay alert. But even this didn't last long. I closed my eyes. The Lion of Judah was here among us, pacing as in his Gethsemane cage, and he had just pleaded with us. Come with me, stay with me, keep watch with me. I had wanted to be there for my master, but I didn't foresee the long, honest prayer between Jesus and his Father. None of us understood the tug-of-war taking place in his heart. The early morning mist that had settled on the valley matched the fog we three felt that night. Looking back, Peter, John, and I could have been such a blessing to Jesus if we had remained awake and attentive. Perhaps on an ordinary night, we would have risen to the challenge, but not this night. The festivities and confrontations, the food, the drink, and the darkness of the Passover feast, together they took a toll. So when his groaning and cries continued into the early morning hours, our best effort to remain awake fell short. Our eyes slipped from willingness to heaviness, and then to shutting completely, until we, just like our brothers, had fallen fast asleep. After his first session of solitary prayer, Jesus returned and found us asleep. I cannot imagine how betrayed and abandoned the Master must have felt. We, his closest three, had failed him. All of us knew the Roman policy of putting to death any of their soldiers who fell asleep on night duty. And look at us, disciples of the Lord of all, a bunch of ragtag young men who lack the ability to stay awake a few late night hours. And we were supposed to be those who led his movement someday? Jesus woke us with a shake on our shoulders and quiet words that would replay in my imagination for years to come. Wake up. Couldn't you resist sleep for even just an hour? Please stay awake with me. Remember, meeting me in prayer will energize your soul with a power greater than your body's weakness. Just because you are willing doesn't mean that you are able. Prayer will give you strength against the enemy's temptation. So tonight and in the years ahead, imitate me. Pray like I pray, and you will find power to overcome. This was amazing. The Master, even knee-deep in disappointment, was thinking more of us than himself. He had more than hinted that as leaders of his movement, the future would test our abilities, our strength and character to the limit. And little did we know how crucial our prayer life would soon be. Quite frankly, we needed this rebuke. You would think that this warning would have left all of us doubly resolute to stay awake. But twice more that same night, we promised, and we did try again, and yet we still dozed back to sleep before his agonizing prayer was over. We had learned so much in our 3 years with Jesus, but it was apparent we had much more spiritual growing to do. That sleep-filled night ended up being a life-altering wake-up call. For us, even our failure to be his friends was no accident. Jesus, what a gift it is to see the secret place of your private prayer with your Father. In this dark night of persecution, the early church found both inspiration for its own vigilance and grace for its sleepiness. May I now find the same. Lord, I confess that there are so many ways that I am tempted to be sleepy, lazy, or distracted from what's most important, even from you. Heavenly Father, in the midst of my weakness, lead me to be attentive and meet you, heart to heart. Open up my soul wide and enable my will. When I fall asleep, forgive me. When I choose laziness, rebuke me. Be firm in your mercy and rouse me from my slumber. I believe that I can stay alert and pray faithfully in ways that make a kingdom difference. Lord, help my unbelief.